Welcome to the clinical cookout. You know you need it, it's kinda scary, but mental health is necessary. Four educated queens taking the lead, hold their hands and they'll help you succeed. Lay your head back, relax, just like that. Now listen to, learn, and your problems will burn away. Cookout, you know, we got just what you need. At the cookout, your heart and mind we will be. At the cookout.
This podcast is for educational purposes only. We are qualified clinicians who will cover various topics on mental health and will sometimes provide community resources. We are not being paid by any organization for our content, and any information we provide is general and pertains to our own personal experiences. We do not provide psychotherapy, diagnoses, or treatment recommendations on air. Any concerns related to your individual mental health should be directed to your medical and mental health professionals. We are not responsible for others' decisions or the subsequent consequences.
Well, hey y'all, and welcome back to the Clinical Cookout. So today's episode is about self-esteem, but our hot sauce dips into self-esteem. Where do we draw the line, aunties, between what looks good body-wise and what doesn't? Where do we draw the line with all of these different people getting BBLs? What's too much? What's necessary? Is any of it necessary? Like, it's a lot of talk going on about people getting work done to their bodies, and even, you know, what's considered thick and what's considered curvy and then what's considered fat, because we know it's a line there. So where's the line, aunties? How do you feel about BBLs?
I'm gonna be the first to say, as I usually say, to each his own, because I know that BBLs go directly into self-esteem and how you feel about yourself. So typically, if you've always thought like, I don't have enough butt, or I don't have enough this, or I got too much gut, then I think that there's no wrong. Like, there's no like, don't do it because it's so wrong. I think that as for me, I like to love myself naturally. I believe in loving myself for who I am. Like, if I'm straight butterball naked, I want to look at myself and be like, well, this is all me. Because I think I started, as I got older, I started getting into this is the real woman. Like, when we look at these models and stuff like that, they convinced us that you need to have BBLs and that you need to look a certain way in order to be desirable. But if you look back in the Roman days, where they were putting up all them Renaissance pictures, the women were Rubenesque. And all of them women, they all had stomachs. People had bellies. And I think that this culture is making us feel like you're less than if you have that. Like, if you have a stomach, or if you just look regular, or you're called basic. So I mean, I just rather be basic and just rock my body. Now sometimes, like I said, I have diastasis recti, so if I have to have it like my stomach sewn back together just so that my abs can actually be hold my guts and stuff like that in, then that's one thing. But as for me going to go get everything put in other places, I think that sometimes it causes a little bit of body dysmorphia, because it kind of lends to, if something else is out of place, I'm just going to go put it here. I'm going to put it there. I'm going to put it back. And I think a lot of times people don't actually do the actual work, because it is work to have a baby and get snapped back, or, get back to some sort of shape, or they don't actually do the work to develop their legs or their butt and stuff like that. So I just think that, I don't know, our society kind of ruins us in that fashion.
This is definitely a hot topic. It's definitely a conversation that I continue to see circulate around the internet, specifically when it comes to Black women and how we see our bodies. I think that overall bodies, specifically women's bodies, are often objectified a lot. And I think that a lot of people think that they have control over someone's body. And because that's how it's particularly been for centuries. And so when people have the autonomy to do what they want to do with their body, I think that I always try to take that into consideration. But also, I want to hit another part of this. It's not so much of me thinking about self-esteem per se. I think of the physical or the health risk to doing some of this stuff. When I see women dying from these things and these type of procedures, that's what gets my antennas up, because I'm like, oh, okay. There's a big risk to doing this. And so you can never control what anybody does and the line and how far their line is that they would take it to look a certain way, because people have their own set of standards, beauty standards, of what they consider to be, acceptable for them. And so I let them do their own thing. But I think I'll just say, as professionals, I think it's important to also understand the risk, the health risk that you're taking to do these things. And personally, for me, if we were to go the personal route, I'm just not a person who I get scared of any type of surgery. So you could never catch me do that. Okay, let me back up. Let me never say never. I would say my money is preventing me from doing that, because that's not the tax bracket I'm in. I don't know if somebody gave me $1 million, then I ain't gonna be walking around here with no BBL, y'all. I just don't know. Maybe I will take the risk, because I know that there are certain social or certain rewards that you get from getting those things. There are certain things that you get being in that higher tax bracket. So although I can say right now, I can't see myself doing that because of the physical health risk. However, if the reward outweighs the risk, if I got more money, I don't know if my opinion would change. And that's just being honest. Because we can all sit up here and say what we ain't gonna do. So somebody dangling $1 million, and then I don't know.
But then that's the thing though.
Be a BBL though. It doesn't necessarily have to be a BBL. It could be like other stuff. Tummy tucks, liposuction, just any type of cosmetic surgery is what I mean by that. But for me, I don't know if I would be singing the same tune if I had more money. You know what I mean? But I can see it where I'm at now, because I could see the risk, and I know that I don't have the money to do that, and the risk is really high for me. So I don't know. I don't know. It's something in the air for me. I don't know.
But that's the thing. People with money are losing their lives every day for that.
Absolutely.
No, money is not, it doesn't exempt you from them days that you got numbered. And a lot of people are
totally agree.
They put cement in the booty and like a whole bunch of other things that like are almost killing them. Ashley, what's her name? She's a singer. K. Michelle.
Okay,
She
Michelle,
talked about her journey. There's cement in her
Mhm.
butt, and it's traveled to other parts of her body, trying to
Right.
attain the media's perfection.
When women or men, because men get cosmetic surgery too, when they don't have the type of money that can get you a reputable plastic surgeon, then they go other routes that are really far more dangerous. All surgery is dangerous. But if you go into somebody's house to get butt injections, that's a world different from I'm going to this reputable medical doctor who's a plastic surgeon who's going to do this the right way. You still are at risk. You're at risk under any surgery. But it's different when you butt shots in somebody's crib. Like Cardi B has admitted.
It's in the basement.
It's in the basement. Cardi B has admitted when she was in the Bronx still stripping, she went and got butt injections from this random woman that everybody was going to. It's like she putting glue in your ass, and now you ain't gonna be laughing because you're gonna be stuck. So you gotta be. If we're gonna talk about doing it with all the health risk involved, at the very least, make sure your money is up to get to that medical doctor who has gone to school, who has a reputation, and who's going to do it the right way. And that still doesn't always save you, because somebody just lost a partner and she went to a reputable doctor. So you just got to take it in. But like Keisha, I'm going to tell you right now, I ain't got no problem admitting. Give me $1 million, I'm going to get breast implants. Period, point blank.
I'm just saying, I'm not saying that people are lying when they say that they'll never get it. No, it's just that sometimes circumstances put you in a different place.
Yep.
And like I can't say for sure that I'll never do that. No, because I know what it means to do hard work and work out and build my booty up by just doing, I know that. I've been an athlete, so I know what that looks like. I'm just saying that I don't know if the only person I've ever seen not change when it comes to money is Keith Leith right now on the internet. And that's the only person I know that ain't changed.
Right.
And aren't money focused or societal, pressure to do a lot of these things. Do I think it's something that we all women should resort to? No, I don't. I don't think it's something that women should resort to, but is the option there? Unfortunately, it is. It is there. And there are women getting this BBL that don't even got money. That ain't even at the celebrity status. So I don't even know how they afford it, but that ain't none of my business, because I need to check my own pockets before I start clocking somebody else's. So I'm just saying,
You
That's where
gotta
I'm
take
at.
into account too that a lot of people have surgeries and their surgery is so good that you can't tell. Because the only time you really see people talking negative is when you can tell this person done had multiple surgeries or has done something. But a lot of regular mommies get mommy makeovers. There are some insurances that will cover parts of a mommy makeover depending on what happened to you during childbirth. So a lot of people have had little nips and tucks here, or might go get a little Botox in their face. Because I always said, no matter what, I may change something in my body, but I won't change my face because I have to wake up and see my face. And how the hell am I not gonna recognize me? Like you done so much stuff to your face, you don't even look like you no more. Especially if you're a younger woman and you have a baby, your baby gonna look like the old face. They're not gonna look like your new face. So now what? That's what I've always said. Your child ain't gonna look like that new chopped up face. But people do things for so many different reasons, and I'm like, I know what I would do if I had the money. So I'm never gonna say anything negative. But I want people to understand the risk of it and when it's too far. And like Auntie Shiv said, you can't really tell somebody when it's too far. But that to me, that's when we get into the mental aspects of it. Like, come on, you have to see that this is going too far.
I wanted to speak to what Ashley said about your face. So I did have work done on my face.
When did you have work done on your face?
It wasn't cosmetic work. It wasn't for cosmetic. I had double jaw surgery. Um, right after Isaac was born in 2012 because I couldn't close my teeth. So when I smiled, my teeth never did close. And so I had to break both of my jaws and put them back together. And when it took years for my face to kind of like normalize. And waking up every single day and seeing a different face, my nose changed. Like seeing those little subtle differences, it played with my mentality. It played with my mental for a long time. To whereas now I'm just, even sometimes when I smile, like I'm like, this is going up a little bit too much and never did that before. It's not like a natural feeling. And I still even get numbness in my lip. So I'm very like particular when it comes to like doing some things. And what I did it for was not cosmetic. It's because it was grinding down the teeth in my back, and I was gonna be out here looking like somebody's grandma by the age of 30. So I had to have my face done, like my jaw actually closed and put back together. And so I even have before and after pictures. There's a very subtle difference, but sometimes people don't even recognize me. Even from growing up, they're like, Rashonda? Should? Because there is a subtle difference.
I need to see some pictures.
Now, why the hell your ass didn't lead with that? We would have liked that one in the beginning, Shug, so we could have worked off that.
I didn't think about it until Ashley said your old face. Because I've talked about double jaw surgery a few times, haven't I?
I've never heard you say that. Never heard you say that once.
How did I not know this?
I don't know.
But it's different because you had to do it. You had to do it. And it made
Yeah, it was necessary. It was a medical necessity.
Yeah, but does that still go along with fixing your face or fixing something on your body, even if it's necessary or not? Though, you know what I mean? Like I know another girl who's like super famous right now. I'm not gonna name her obviously, but she had was it an underbite or overbite where your chin is out far, your
Underbite.
underbite, and she fixed that, and I don't want to say she looks totally different, but because of what she does, I'm sure she had to fix it. That looked necessary. You know what I mean? So
it's necessary things.
One of the things that Auntie Shug said is that, there was a major difference from after she had the jaw surgery. And it's kind of like she's comparing herself to herself rather than other people. So I think when it comes time to consider, getting work done, is this something that's for you? Is it something that's reasonable? Do you need to redo your whole entire body? Or are there just parts of your body that you feel like, you want to look better for yourself? I actually am considering and will probably move forward with, doing consultations for getting work done. But all of this is related to motherhood, breastfeeding for multiple kids and having multiple C-sections. So just kind of tucking things and lifting things. But I do think that it is more of me comparing myself to what I used to look like. I do not want to go back to my high school weight because I like my booty and my hips that I got from my kids. But it's still me looking back like, you know what? I was really confident in this part of my life. I feel like I want to kind of get back there. And tucking and lifting can get me there. But it's not so much of, oh, Cardi look like that because Cardi might look good. And I want to look like Cardi.
It ain't like that. So I think that when it comes to like drawing the line on what work you get done or why you get it done or what have you, I mean, to each their own. If you want to do your body up, do your body up. I don't care. It ain't my body. But also, like, how much do you need to get done? And is it going to look natural? Are you even going for the natural look? There are some people that get these types of surgeries, and they don't care about it looking natural or not. So you get people on internet like, oh, her body looked like an ant or whatever. Some people actually like it to like that's what they wanted to look like. That was their goal. So you sitting up here insulting them and they're like, well, that's what I wanted to look like. So it is what it is. But aside from physical appearance, there are a lot of other things that impact your self-esteem as well. So that is what we are going to be talking about in our main dish for today.
The cookout, you know, we got just what you need. At the cookout, your heart and mind we will be.
All right, so we have a beautiful guest on today, and we're going to be talking about self-esteem, and we're going to be talking about it with one of our dearest friends, and that is Ashley Green. Ashley Green has vitiligo, and so she's going to be coming from a perspective that neither one of us could speak to, but we all can show empathy to. So please welcome Ashley.
Hey y'all.
Hey.
Yeah.
Hey, Ashley.
Well, all right, y'all. We are jumping right into our main dish, which is all about self-esteem. And to start, I think we should really start at the core of where our self-esteem gets built, which is in our families. Our families play a major role in, how we see ourselves and what they say to us. And I know particularly in Black families, it can be pretty tough depending on a lot of factors. So just a general question to all the aunties and Ashley, how did your family pour into your self-esteem or take away from your self-esteem?
So if I could speak on that, I think for myself, my family, I don't know, my family, they hyped me up. They made me feel like, I was like a superstar out here. And probably because me having vitiligo, I've had it since I was 3 years old. So I think that, my mother, especially my mom was always like real big on, me embracing my skin. My father was like that. My stepmother would get pissed off. Like when we used to be in public when I was younger and like people would look and stare like that she would cuss somebody out in a minute. So they always like encouraged me to, I don't know, they to me, my family always overhyped me. It made me feel good about myself. But again, I can't say specifically like for any of my extended family if I've ever felt any kind of way, like gatherings and things like that. I will say that there has been times of me being uncomfortable growing up. Not because of anything anybody said in particular, maybe just like staring and things like that. So yeah, for the most part, I didn't have those issues.
Well, I'm with you on that. My family did hype me up as well, overhype me too. I was affirmed a lot as a kid by both of my parents, by my grandparents, my aunts, my uncles. But I also think that the overhyping was like a fault because later on in life I kind of became a perfectionist. And so when I fell short on something, it wasn't like mentally for me like, oh, this is okay. You're still, strong. You're still smart. You can still do this. It was more of like, oh my God, I'm not perfect. Nobody's going to tell me I did a good job. So now I can't, move forward with whatever it is. And I've worked through a lot of that. But I do think that there needs to be like a balance on affirming your child, but also letting them know, when you make mistakes, things are okay. But yeah, that's my input.
My family, I don't want to say they're overhyped or underhyped, but it wasn't something that I noticed like about, my body at all or what I look like until I got to school. That was when things started to be more pronounced because I went to a school that majority had, white individuals, or white kids. And if they were black, they wasn't as dark as me. It was like me and another boy. And the other boy was like very very darker complected, and he got made in front of all the time. And so I have to say, before when I was at home, that wasn't something that I noticed, but other people who were other from different cultural backgrounds noticed. And so, but I think because my family wasn't equipped to handle such, let's just say backlash, or I didn't really say much about it when I went to school and then would come back home, I had to handle a lot of that stuff on my own, and I never told them that that was an issue per se. So, and again, I don't think that they were just equipped to know what to say or what to do. But obviously now, I'm very aware of those things and just my body and my complexion and all of that stuff. And I think about how do I pour into other people who may have gone through the same thing growing up, or equipping families with how to pour into your kids when they get in environments that are not as accepting, or that are different, culturally different. So I don't know. They didn't overhype or underhype, but I think that now they are into that now. Maybe because the times changed. I don't know. But yeah, that's my experience.
Well, I had a significantly critical experience from like day one, especially about being dark. There's a lot of colorism that we experience in my family. They're gonna be mad, but it is what it is. And then, like, if you are from at least one side of my family, for real, you better, well, I say both, you better be able to handle them jokes because they don't stop. So, what happened was it wasn't necessarily bad. Like, I came out, I mean, I'm a survivor, right? So, I've learned how to properly place jokes too from growing up in that kind of environment. So, it could be either toxic or it could be helpful. For me, it was helpful because when I went to school, they was way worse. They were like 10 times worse. So I was able to adapt and overcome because of that. But at the same time, it can be mean. You were the mean person because you're like, somebody might say something to you and they give an inch and then you take 12 miles. So I think that that's like helped contribute to some degree of self-hatred for a long time until I had to grow up and work through those issues. So that foundation is I mean, even if you have a negative experience, I believe that something positive can come out of it anyway, because I didn't have always a positive experience. But when it was time to be able to bring the heat, I was able to bring that because of those experiences. So I don't know. They made me a gentle monster.
So really, growing up in a black family for like you understood it for a lot of us, you gotta have a tough skin. You sometimes gotta have a tough skin. They can hype you up like I'm more so where Auntie Ash and or Auntie Ash, where Ash Green. You could be an auntie today. Where Auntie Ash and Auntie Amber are, where my family kind of overhyped me. But then I feel Auntie Keish because when I went to school, that overhyping at home didn't coincide at school. And so that's when I had to deal with people actually saying negative things about my looks. Like, this is why I always had such an insecurity about my ears and my lips. Those were the two things for me that were like, I wish I had smaller lips. I wouldn't wear lipstick for a long time. I didn't want to wear lip gloss that made my lips stand out. I wouldn't wear earrings. I would try to wear my hair over my ears. So when I got to school, all that overhyping my family did, it didn't benefit me there because it was like, oh, the people at school don't think I'm cute. They're not saying that. So I had to learn how to feel that for myself. And then when you go home and you like Keisha said she didn't tell her mom. I did. And my mom, the quintessential black mom answer, they just jealous. That was the quintessential answer to everything. They are just jealous of you. And at that time, I was like, they're not just jealous. No, they're not. And for me, unlike Auntie Keish, it wasn't white kids saying it. It was mine. It was my people saying it, which made it worse. It's like, for me, that's worse. I probably could have handled white kids saying it, but I couldn't handle my own saying it because it was like, dang, like, we all black. Like, why can't y'all say nice stuff about me? So that was my experience. My family overhyped it. My mom was always like, you tell people you're not conceited, you convinced. And to this day, that line sticks with me. I'm not conceited. At this point, I'm just convinced that I am beautiful and that I bring something. So with that, dealing with, like, I think Ashley, you mentioned it, like family gatherings. As you get older, teenage years, college years, adult years, putting on weight, losing weight. As you get older, then how does that family dynamic come in? Because I know my family will tell you quick, ooh, girl, you put on some weight. Ooh.
Y'all done heard about my grandma.
Your
She
grandma was
don't
talking about
she,
your neck, if I remember. You got to think about the next
Look,
Amber.
when I was slim and trim, she ain't had nothing to say. It was all positive stuff. The second I put on a little weight after them kids, child, every time I went home, that's all she would say is I'm a little thick, my face a little thick, all of this. So yeah, it did change after my appearance changed.
Yeah, I have to agree to that. And I caught it on both ends. So not only like my grandmother was notorious, she's very honest. She didn't care what came out of her mouth. So she was notorious to tell me like, "Oh, Ashley, you put on some weight. You put on a few pounds." But then I married my husband and his family. I would catch it from them too. You don't know how many gatherings I've went to, and they'd be like, "What? Oh, Ashley, you look like you put on a couple pounds." I had somebody. I went to years ago. I went to my husband's aunt's party, and one of their good friends said to me, "You're really pretty, but just remember, you want to make sure that you can keep your weight down a little bit." I couldn't
Mm-mm.
believe he said that to me. Yeah, yeah, he
Mm-mm.
did.
Wait,
And
so
I did
your
not tell
mind
my
was
husband he said it. I got to be honest, I did not tell my husband he said it because it probably would have went bad. The weekend would have been ruined. But I realized then, because at that time I was really happy with myself. At least I felt like I was fine. And then I'm getting all these compliments or all these people saying that I'm gaining weight, and now I'm starting to look at myself. Well, damn, I need to make some changes. So yeah, no, I caught it on both ends as I got older, actually. Now I don't. I mean, but again, I just recently been on a weight loss journey, so now it's been like, "Oh, Ashley, you look good." But for years before that, yeah,
I
it
have a
was rough.
therapist who doesn't comment on anybody's weight ever. Like, even if she sees that they lost weight, she won't say anything because she's like, okay, so if you lose weight and then they say you look good, then it's like, well, I wasn't looking good before? But then if you gain weight, and I've gained like 70 pounds since high school, and like the first thing people say is like, oh, you thick, or you finally got a butt, or you finally got this, or you finally got that. And so it's always kind of like, well, dang, you know what I mean? Like I was becoming too. So people do always comment on your weight, and it's. I think I'm of the mindset of trying not to say anything before anymore to people. I believe in more so being healthy instead of you always having to look slim and trim.
But therein lies another question. Where's the line, specifically in our culture? Where's the line between you gained weight and it looked good because you curvy and thick, and you done gained too much weight? Because that's a dilemma too. Like in our culture, it's not good to be too skinny. At the end of the day, you need to have a butt. You need to have a shape. You need to have that shape. But where's the line? Like for me, when I got a butt finally, my grandma was like, "Woo, you must have went to college and found a man. You got a butt." Like I was like, "Whoa, okay." And I had wanted a butt all my life, but then you get into the idea of if you're too skinny, that's a problem too. Like you ain't got no shape. You thin as a rail, and then women will get older and be like, "Well, I'm gonna go get something done because I want a butt. I want to. I still to this day want breast implants." So where's the line?
Well, I don't know where the line is because I don't think there is a line because I think by everybody's personal preferences or our own expectations or what we think people should look like, that's what we base the line on. So everybody's line is going to be different. But I do think that all of this is like about our physical appearance, right? So our self-esteem is strongly linked to that, absolutely. But I do think it's important that we foster or help our kids develop like solid identities both inside and out so that when our physical appearance, like us gaining weight or losing weight or getting surgery or not getting surgery, whatever have you, when those things happen and people have comments, you're still solid and confident in yourself and who you are as a person. I do think that like physical appearance, yes, it happened for me. I got in college and I was fine. So everything was about the way I looked. Anytime I went anywhere or did anything, it was about the way I looked. When my looks changed, I had to find things within myself that I was confident about. And that wasn't easy because that wasn't solid from the beginning or from when I started to develop my identity.
I think sometimes that transitions from being okay, family may cross boundaries and say things that are inappropriate. And then you get online and then you see this aesthetic of, did I say that right, Shug? Aesthetic? You see the aesthetic of all these Instagram figures and these TikTok influencers who look like they've walked out of GQ magazine or Sports Illustrated. And you're like, why do what do I need to be doing? And now you have all these people, even adults, and particularly kids or teenagers, who are so caught up in now wanting to look a certain way because we think that it's achievable, number one. We think that it's achievable when actual these people have done some drastic or maybe even some unethical things to get to where their bodies are today. And I think it messes up a lot of self-esteem for adults and kids who think that they can achieve that, and then they find out a lot of weight and body changes are literally dependent on genes, is dependent on what you can like afford, because some people can afford those high-end products that can get them that body that they want, and time. Like, people are stressed out with, inflation and all that stuff. And so these people, sometimes being an influencer is their full-time job. They can work out 8 hours a day. And so I even found myself being so, hitting my self-esteem a little bit, because I was like, man, I'm working out. Man, I'm trying to do this. And the TikTok girlies look like this and I don't look like that. Well, guess what, Keisha? Genetically, you are not built like that. And you're never going to look like a Coca-Cola shape. You've been a track runner all your life. What Coca-Cola shaped track runners do you know? And here I am thinking to myself that I was going to be that. And I'm not. And I lied to myself. That's just real.
I say actually a Coca-Cola shaped track runner.
That's green on the face.
You.
I am not Coca-Cola shaped. I know how to, here's the thing. This is another thing. I know how to accentuate and hide things. Yeah, sometimes I put on my Spanx, full body Spanx, depending on what I'm wearing. I will do something. Now, I was skinny. I don't think I was, back when we were younger, I was a skinny track runner with some big legs. My legs were always big because of track, but I didn't have the upper body, I didn't have the hips. Then when I had babies, when I had Zeph, my body was popping. As a mama, whoo, my body was popping. But then after 2-3 more babies, it was like, well, let me go to Zumba class. And now it's like, I don't care. I'm not going to work out. I have an aversion to it. And that's it. And I love food. I'm done. Other things, like Auntie Amber said, you have to build that identity in your kids so they can lean on other things. I'm smart. I have a master's degree. I'm a therapist. Like, all these things contribute to my self-esteem because I'm going to eat and I don't care.
You know what I did notice? Like, when we was little, I remember, like, first of all, I remember meeting Ash Green at 7. And Ash, do you remember? Anyway, I remember. And like, we lived down the street from each other, and I had asked about her skin, and she was like, "Oh, I got vitiligo." And she kind of explained it when we were little, and I was just like, "Oh, okay." But she never did seem like she had low self-esteem. And then when I met, like me and Auntie actually, you know what I mean? Like, as we hung out just growing up, I remember she said, "My mom always say somebody jealous of me. You gotta say that. You my mother." And then, like, I will never forget that conversation. And then when I heard it out of my own kids, like, you gotta say that, you my mother. So I was told that the same thing that she said, like, what, 20 something years later, it was, you have to say that, and you're the one person saying it, but whenever I go to school, there's 99 other people that are saying the opposite of what you're saying. So just like you said, like the Coca-Cola shape and all of that, like, I think it's hard because of other people's perceptions, and those things are placed on us. And I mean, and it's some people. I don't want to be obese. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and say that, because I ain't gonna sit on here and act like everybody gotta want to be that. Me and Ash just talked about that the other day. Like, that's not what I want to be. So I do things and I maintain my health and I maintain the way so that I can, like, maintain the way I look. But it's not based on other people all the time. Sometimes innately you just want to feel good. So I don't want to put this all on everybody else.
I think you make a good point about what you personally want. I think that a lot of times people always try to want things for other people that they either can't do or genetically they just can't. Like learning like about health, like people associate health to being skinny versus health is just what you choose to put inside your body. On top of that, even if that person did put the right things inside their body, that doesn't guarantee that they'll be skinny. It just doesn't, because that's not how your genes work. That's not how things work. So I think that's a good way of, forming or bridging. Hey, I want to do this for me. I want to be healthy and look good for me. I had to accept the same thing, Shug. I was like, I ain't a size 8 like I used to be in high school anymore, and I have to accept that. And could I get back there? Yeah, but there's some drastic stuff going on. But also, I think Amber make a good point about what are other things that can make me feel good about myself and increase my self-esteem. And I learned a new word. I learned a new word, y'all, and that word is I'm socially savvy. So I take pride in creating relationships and building positive relationships, and that increases my self-esteem because I know I'm socially savvy and I can get what I want when I want it from who I want it from. So that's my positive point for the day.
Yeah.
And just to add to that too, it doesn't always have to be something that someone has said to you that you know about yourself, to help form your identity. Of course, your parents are going to tell you you're awesome and, you're beautiful, you're handsome, or what have you. But you start to learn these things about yourself as you get out in the world. Like for you, Keish, when you started interacting with people and building relationships, you started to learn that about yourself. It might not have been someone straight out saying, like, oh, you are socially savvy. You are awesome at building relationships. You learn that and you take that, and that builds up your self esteem. So when we talk about like helping your kids form their identities, you don't always have to say it. You just like be there for them. Like Auntie Shug just supported her son in becoming a published author. Like that is a part of his identity, and that will forever be a part of his identity, and he's going to know I can do whatever like I want to do, right? She didn't have to say like, "Oh my gosh, you are awesome because you wrote a book," even though I'm sure she did. But just her being there, supporting him and pushing him through that's going to stay with him for the rest of his life, and that boosts self-esteem. So sometimes it's just as subtle as supporting your kid, or even if your kid's an adult, rather than like outwardly saying how awesome that person is.
Now that's good, Amber, because everybody on here knows by now, especially Suge and Ash, that I can argue till it ain't no more arguing left to do. I am super strongly opinionated. I will debate somebody until they stop. They have to stop because I'll keep going. But that was fostered in me. And that's something that I honestly, that has served me well in a lot of different situations. But that was fostered in me. My mother never, she used to always say, you always got something to say. You got to have the last word. You got to prove your point. But she allowed it. She didn't tell me, just shut up. Don't say nothing else. She didn't do that. And I try to do that with my kids are very opinionated. And I do the same thing. I'm like, say what you got to say. Say your piece. I ain't gonna stop you. I'm gonna tell you if you're wrong, or I'm gonna talk to you if we need to talk about things, but say what you have to say. So that being fostered in me helped me to learn I don't have to shut up for anybody. I'm gonna say what I gotta say.
That's why Ace will be talking back now.
Right.
And that's why I be on the phone. I'm gonna whoop his ass. You don't have to say nothing. I'm gonna whoop his ass.
I was just about to say, every time Ashley get going every time you get going about Zephaniah, I'd be like, you can't say nothing to Zephaniah because she act just like you. She gonna push the envelope just like you. And you better not.
I got it back. My mama said that. She said, when you have kids, you're going to get it back. And I definitely got it back. The only one that don't really do too much sometimes is maybe Elijah. But he's slick with his. So he'll still do it. He just ain't as bad as the other ones.
I think like for me, I just recently got to the point, like probably in the last 5 years, where I've started to really embrace some of the good qualities that I really like about myself, to be honest with you. Like I struggled I didn't realize how bad I struggled with like issues and myself physically, and I didn't realize it until later. So growing up, I never wore shorts, never wore short sleeves. People used to say, oh my God, Ashley, you got to be hot. It's summertime. You're wearing 3/4 length sleeve shirts. And it really was because I was so self-conscious. And when I would take pictures, I would cover my arms, trying to cover up my vitiligo. I didn't realize how bad it was until I was in college. And the very first time I actually wore something like I think I wore a dress or something. I didn't start to embrace myself until I got to college and I realized, man, I was terrible. And I missed out on some good years. I had a nice shape. I could have been half naked then, right? And now that I'm older and I can't do that no more. So no, I didn't realize just how bad I really was. And when I started to talk about it more with people, I would like even to this day, like I just started being to the point where I could go and not put makeup on. Like actually let people in my house and I don't have makeup on my face. I got vitiligo. And recently my vitiligo has gotten worse. So it goes through different stages because when I was younger it was bad, then it got better, it cleared up. And now in the last couple of years, like this didn't exist, right? And so now I've started to maybe come back to that a little bit where I'm starting to feel a little more where I'm like, oh man, maybe I need to, look at some treatments out there.
But actually, you know what I think? I think that self-esteem and low self-esteem it's on a continuum, right? It's not like I have arrived. It took me until I was 25 to be like, dang, my skin is beautiful, and then the rest of the world being like, I'm dark skinned and melanin. And so like there's this thing where it goes up and down sometimes, where sometimes you might feel good and other times you might not feel as affirmed as you were. And so this, I mean, it speaks to really everybody who might struggle. There's some days you feel better, there are some days you feel worse, and then some days, like those thoughts creep back up in your head from a child, or just the way that you used to feel as a child. Like you can have those days where you're just not there, and it doesn't have to last for days. It could last for months. It could last for a year or two because it didn't take you overnight to be like, I'm popping. Wait a minute. What was I thinking? It took years to get to that, and like, a series of events and a series of people pouring into you to kind of get to that. So it's weird because the foundation is still always shaky, right? So the foundation wasn't necessarily always there, and then you built it. But then sometimes the top, it might rain a little bit, and then the top starts to like kind of sink in, and you kind of got to rebuild that.
No, it is a continuous journey. And I think people think that it's hardest it is hard when you are a kid, adolescent, trying to discover your identity. That is one of the hardest stages. But it's hard as an adult too. Especially after becoming a mother and after doing certain things. Like I'm very transparent now with the fact I went through a really severe self-esteem hit and depression because of how school went for me. Because I was always the smart girl that was going to be the doctor. And everybody had this expectation of me. And people's expectations of you can also hit your self-esteem when you don't meet that standard. When you don't meet the standard that other people set for you, it's like, dang, like I failed. So when I didn't graduate from college on time, I was depressed for years. And then even when I did finally graduate, did get everything together, it was like, instead of telling myself you did it and being positive, it was, well, you finally did it. Like it took you long enough. It was really negative self talk to myself. I didn't really embrace it as I should. And I had some people in my life even say that, like, well, one person in particular say that, like, well, yeah, after all of these years, finally. And it was like, damn. Okay, so this is not a celebratory time for me either because it's not at the right time. And so a lot of different things impact your self-esteem as an adult. And a lot of adults do not talk openly enough about that. We don't just admit, I'm not popping all the time. When I post a picture on Instagram or Snap, I done took 75 pictures and swiping through to find the one that looked right. When I post about something, it's curated to make me feel the best I can feel. But most people aren't divulging the real deep inner things that they deal with.
You know what, Ash, that made me think because one thing I'm trying to teach my kids now is that you don't let people add or take away from you. You're not an ATM. So when you allow people, and it took me years to notice, so it's not like, I just was always like this because I wasn't. But when you allow people to say, you're this or you're that or you're that or you're this, I was always the underdog. Always the underdog. And so when people said things about me, I never necessarily believed them. But then again, as I got older, I realized that I did believe them at the time. So I'm trying to teach them, like, don't let people give you all these positives and fluff your head up, because the minute somebody says, well, it's about time, now you're right back here. And so you letting people, you're not Pinocchio. why is everybody pulling your strings? And so if they can't put in, if they shouldn't be withdrawing from you unless they're putting into you. So I try to teach them, like, I'm working on that, but it doesn't always land right either, right? We can talk about being poured into all day, every day, but it's also up to that kid to accept it, or up to people to buy in.
Yeah, and another interesting thing I've learned just working in the field is that the way that people interact with you also reflects their own self-esteem. So if I don't know if y'all ever said this when y'all were little, but it's this little saying, I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever you say bounces off of me and sticks to you. Have y'all ever heard that before? I never even knew what that really meant as a kid. I just said that when somebody said something mean to me, little kid or whatever. But if you actually listen to what that's saying, that's exactly what it is. These people are saying certain things to you, negative things, because it mirrors their own self-worth. They think that they're not good enough, so they're going to tell you you're not good enough. Misery loves company, right? So that's another piece too, is when people are saying all these things to you and like targeting you, if you look at them and ask yourself, well, why are they treating me like this, right? I guarantee you'll find something about them that they don't like about themselves, and that's why they're treating. It don't have nothing to do with you. They just want somebody else to feel as bad as they do.
That's called projection.
Yeah.
But I think that's where some of my aggressions have come from too, growing up, because my father, he always taught me, like, somebody say something like, oh, they better know how to fight, right? So I think that that's kind of where some of my like aggressions have come from too, where somebody might say something negative, rather than for me to look at it like, well, you know what they got, they dealing with their own stuff. You can let that go. I'm ready to throw down over the first thing that somebody says, and that's just that really was just my defense mechanism. Like, okay, you got something to say, oh well, you better know how to fight then, right? So and not saying that was the right way to handle it, and as I've gotten older, I've been trying to really teach my kids kind of the opposite. Like, I tell my kids how beautiful they are and all that, but I also want them to understand that not everybody is going to feel how I feel about you and how you feel about you. Everybody's not going to feel like that about you. So when you go to school every day, and that was one thing that I really wish that my father and my mother and my stepmother, that they really would have taught me, was how to deal with other kids and the negative comments and stuff. We talked about that, throughout this time, but I really wish that they would have taught me more so how to deal with it, because I wasn't ready. I got to be honest, I wasn't ready. Like, the first time I was called a Dalmatian like that, I was in 6th grade. And the first time a girl said that to me, I was devastated. I couldn't believe she said that to me. So I've been really trying to work with my kids and teach them that, listen, you could feel how you want to feel, but sometimes when you walk into them school doors, they're not always gonna be positive about you. They ain't always gonna like you. But you do what you do. I tell Gian, I always tell my oldest daughter, you hold your head high. You be yourself unapologetically, because that was something that was not taught to me. That's something that I'm learning. That's something that I've just learned over the past few years, is be myself. But I've really been trying to put that in my kids' head.
Ooh, being a mother, like, and your body changing hits hard. And just like, I mean, I was always super skinny. They used to draw stick figure pictures of me with balloon breasts. Like, it was that bad. Or they used to like rub the wall and talk about my butt and my chest when I didn't have nothing. Because at one point in time I was a Gumby. And like, but after I had them kids, listen, things started happening for me, okay? Things got put where it belonged, but then I ended up with some, what my sister called it, booty do, where your stomach stick out more than your booty do. Like, it's like, I mean, things like, I have diastasis recti, where I've carried so many kids, because I've carried 7 babies. And everybody sees 5, but I actually carried 7. And so the last, I think 3, they were out like watermelons. Like, my belly was like a bullet. And they ripped open my abs. They ripped them completely apart. And so there's no putting it back. I've been to physical therapy twice. And the only way to correct diastasis recti as bad as mine is surgery, or somebody, Sharni and Julius, whoever said that she can do it too. But like it's a lot to go on. And then I think like the changing of the figure, that really does play play a part in low self-esteem, or putting on an outfit and not feeling quite right, or just worried about the way that you look just because of what the kids did to your body. And then your kids is ignorant, because the first thing they'll do is walk up to you and be like, "Mommy, why your belly look like that? What's wrong with your belly button?" You know what I mean? Like, you get all these things that people say, and you be like, "Well, dang, I had a baby." And we never ever look at that and say, "Oh, I had a baby." A lot of us ain't walking in the room feeling like Adriana, like, "Well, shoot, I'm still fine." You know what I mean? It takes a lot of self-convincing, and it's a lot of negative self-talk that goes with that.
Listen, these kids can be disrespectful. I'll never forget baby Elijah after I had Asa. He came and laid on my stomach. And he wasn't even trying to be mean, but he was like, I said, "Why are you laying on my stomach?" He said, "Because it's like a soft pillow." Crushed me. I was in tears. I was like, "Oh my God, I don't want a soft pillow." Like, we were athletes growing up and having that flat stomach. That was something. Like, I could wear my tank tops, my crop tops. And so now as a mother, it's like, I don't look like that no more. It take work for me to get back to that. Like, it ain't a quick snapback like everybody like to say. And sometimes that snapback that you see on Instagram ain't a true snapback. I had something done. I had a mommy makeover. And so as a mother, not only the look, but also just the part that went into my self-esteem was, am I a good mother? That still plays into me a lot. Like, I don't do what this mother does, or I don't do what these Pinterest mamas do, or I don't do all this stuff that these mothers do, and I'm never gonna do it more than likely. And that plays into, so am I showing up for my kids, or are they gonna say, "Well, my mommy wasn't that type of mom, and we had problems because of it." Like, that is something that is consistently on my mind as a mother, and really digs at my self-esteem, that I'm just not showing up enough.
I was gonna say that right after Shook was talking. I agree. I think that physically you change and that affects your self-esteem, but mentally also, not being sure about what type of mother you are, but also you start to kind of lose sight of things that used to be meaningful in your life that probably brought you, some positive self-confidence. And it becomes a lot about your kids and, making sure that you're a good mom and you're showing up for them, and you lose sight of the other things that were meaningful for you. And that also impacts your self-esteem in a negative way, or it can, until you find it again. So this is where the roller coaster, like Auntie Shug was talking about, up and down. Once you find it again, you find these meaningful things, you start to engage in these things, in these activities again, your self-esteem or self-confidence gets better. But when you first have them kids, especially your first kid, it's like you don't even know what to do. Like, it's all about this kid. Like, you don't matter. It's all about the kid for that time being.
I will say on here, because it's often a conversation that come up with moms. Being a stay-at-home mom was some of the most depressing time of my life. It was the most depressing 7 years of my life. And I know some mama's gonna be like, "Oh, she a bad mom for saying that." Look, I'm telling you, because I had no identity outside of that. I was a stay-at-home mom. That was what I did. I was with my kids, and I had nothing else. And for me, it was like, you were supposed to be so much more than just a mom. That cannot be your only identifier. You were supposed to be more than a wife and a mom. I didn't start to feel good again until I went back to school, because that was what I was used to. I'm used to being the girl that's in school that's striving for dreams, not just somebody's mother and somebody's wife.
Ooh, Ashley, same thing. I mean, I did the same thing. I hit a brick wall. After I had Gianna, I really felt like, because I mean, I had worked so hard. I had gotten my master's. I wanted to, at that point, I was working as a manager, education manager for Head Start. So I'm doing all the hiring, all the firing, all the training, all the development for over 500 teachers, right? So I thought that I was where I wanted to be until I had Gianna. And then when I had her, I didn't want to do anything else. I was done. So I stayed home with her for the first 4 years of her life. And I'll never do that again, ever. I'm sorry, for anyone that's a stay-at-home mom currently, it was not for me. That's because I went through some of the similar things that you went through, Ashley, where I was super depressed. I didn't really have, not that I didn't have babysitters, but it really just kind of fell on me. And my husband, he was out, he was working, and I kind of felt like if I felt some kind of way, like me coming to him, asking him for a couple dollars, yeah, okay. When I got it in my head that I would never do that again. And once I started working, I remember my husband saying to me, like, you know what? I'm gonna get to a place where you can stay home again. I said, no worries, that'll never happen again. Because I felt like I completely lost myself when I stayed home with Gianna. So once I got that opportunity to get back out there and start working and you know, develop my own identity, oh no, I never went back.
Those were some of the best years of my existence. And I'm going to say this for the other women who don't feel like that, because I think that sometimes in us as Black women, we've been taught that if you ain't working, you ain't shit. And I think that that's hard for us because I ain't seen nothing wrong with being kept. However, I'm going to put the Black woman of me in there, right? I got a whole doctorate degree while being a stay-at-home mom. So I was never just looking to only be somebody's mom. It was still in my head that, like, I don't want to only be somebody's mom forever. I want to, like, whenever these kids go off and they're going to live their best lives, I want to have something to live for my best life. So I constantly went to school. I did an internship. I did all my internships for my master's and my doctorate while I was staying home. So I constantly still had something to do. So I think just having that little bit to still hold on to, I think it was helpful. So I think what I did was straddle the fence with that. And I think that that's what made it more helpful. But I have heard that perspective. So I know that everybody's going to have a different perspective. I just wanted to offer the other side so that people would hear both sides. But this was awesome because I think that we're saying a lot of things that people need to hear. So, I mean, I'm very glad. Like, Ashley, thank you so much for coming on. We always enjoy you. We might need a fifth auntie one day. But no, seriously, like, this was really good conversation. Everybody has some very respectful opinions, and they're super informed opinions. That's what I heard from my coworkers. Your opinions are very informed. And I mean, that was some very positive feedback because, you know, there's a lot of professional women and everybody does not feel one way. So with that said, my only question is, what y'all about to do?